Hey everyone, welcome to another video of Nameless Things. As you can see today, we are going to take a look at my Tinkle and Amar Chitra Katha collection. So about a few days ago, or like I think about a week ago on Instagram, I posted if you guys wanted to see my Amar Chitra Katha collection, and most of you said hell yeah. Well, not most of you, all of you said hell yeah. So I was like, okay, fine, I got to do this. And if you're not following me on Instagram already, I've put the link to my account in the description below. You can follow me there, and I post a bit more frequently over there. So without wasting much more time, let's get into this. Before we get into the video, be sure to hit the like button and share this with your friends. Do hit the subscribe button, that would mean a lot for me. And let's get into the video. So first up, we're taking a look at Tinkle presents The Adventures of Suppandi. So before we go into the Amar Chitra Katha collection, I thought I'd go through my Tinkle collection first. And guys, actually my Tinkle collection right now is like, it's only 1% of what I used to have before. Like this was, I think from like 20 the to the latter end of 2012 all the way till 2015, I had every Tinkle issue collected, and I had a couple of few Tinkle double digests as well, because I used to love the stories of Suppandi, Shikari Shabbu, Tantri the Mantri, Butterfingers, Pyare Lal. These were all my favorite characters. I loved reading them, but sadly I don't have them anymore. But this the Adventures of Suppandi is something I love a lot. I mean, these are characters I have grown up with. I mean, even my parents would have grown up with this. Even my dad used to tell me about Suppandi and Shikari Shambhu, and this, contains the original stories that were there. Well, not the original, but some of the old classic and simple comedic stories of Suppandi, the forgetful boy. It's very funny and very hilarious, and it's a bit, it's seen better days. I think it's been many years since I've had this collection, but I still hold this very close to my heart. And as you can see, they have an index over here, and you can see there's some Tinkle tricks and treats, and also there was the dumbbells. These were like a trio, like a comedic trio, but then they got discontinued, sadly. Yeah, and this was the very first Suppandi story. So this is like the Amazing Fantasy 15 of Suppandi. Well, this it doesn't have any big origin story, but it is the very first story of Suppandi. So very comedic, very simple and forgetful. About this is the dumbbells that I was talking about, and I miss this is a bit cartoonic fun. This is the kind of comic stories I really miss, man. I really wish we get these back. Next is The Adventures of Suppandi Part 2. There were a lot more Suppandi volumes that was released after this. You had Simply Suppandi, Suppandi 4, Suppandi 5, Super Suppandi, and all that over there. But those were some of the more recent comics and tales of Suppandi. These are like the older ones from the initial days of Tinkle. So moving on to the Amar Chitra Kathas, we are starting off with the special issues. So these are some of the hardbind special issues, and this one is about the Dashavatara. This is about all the 10 different avatars of Sri Vishnu over the different yugas. And I have read these, most of these comics that I have are ones that I have already read in school, because I was always that kid in school who would prefer to go to the library, and I was just very lucky that my school had a huge collection of Amar Chitra Katha, and not just from our epic tales and Puranas. It also had some from freedom fighters. It had Akbar and Birbal stories. So I used to always pull these books out, sometimes even repeatedly, and just keep on reading them. These were my go-to books when I was in school, man. Next, we have the Valmiki's Ramayana over here, and actually, in recent times, they have printed a more elaborate version of the Valmiki's Ramayana, where they have, they split it based on each kandam. There's 7 kandams. This is all the 7 different kandams of the Ramayana. They have, printed and told the story very detailedly. This is just like a very small recap of the Ramayana, and it's very difficult to, concise the story, because there is a lot of events and stories that's there in the Ramayana. I mean, it's one of the biggest epic tales of India. And speaking of Ramayana, there is talks that Nitesh Tiwari's Ramayana is going to come next year. I really hope they do it well, because the one by Prabhas, the Adipurush, was just really traumatizing. The only thing that was saving grace was that last year we had this year we had the anime movie Ramayana, The Legend of Prince Ram, released in India finally, and my god, is that much better. Next up, we have the Paramveer Chakra, the ultimate honor. So this is about India's highest military gallantry award. This collects, I think, about 21 stories or so. Yeah, that crack was pretty high. It's been held up like this for a very long time. So as you can see, this is the index. This has all the different people who have earned the highest military gallantry award. Very patriotic, very nice artwork, tells the story about some of our very brave soldiers in the Indian army who have sacrificed their life for us and their army men. So it's an amazing book. You can definitely take this and read. You will learn a lot about the true heroes who protect our country. So before going on to some of the mega hardbind issues, I have some single issue copies here as well. This was actually the very first Amar Chitra Katha book I got at my local newspaper store. The story about Balaji and Padmavati Devi at Almel Mangapura, and I just love the story and the artwork. So this takes place immediately, like right after Sri Krishna leaves Earth and heads back to Vaikunta. And you will hear the story here many times, and a lot of people know the story of Venkateshwara and Padmavati. Then we have the tales of Balarama, the brother of Krishna. We have tales of Narada, stories of devotion. I just love this old style of painting, it's really nice. And we have tales of Tanjavur, about the city where we have the Brihadishwara temple built by the Chola Empire. This is about MS Subbalakshmi, the queen of Carnatic music. And if you are, born here in South India, you would have not grown up even a single day without hearing some of her Suprabharta musics. Obviously, like the Suprabhartam itself, the Hanuman Chalisa, the Bhajagovindam, you would have definitely grown up hearing one of this every day. There is no way you miss her music in this side of the country. Next, you have Dhyan Chand, the Wizard of Hockey. This is one of the specials that came out then, and I was like, I had to get it. So this is about an amazing hockey player, and at that time I had just watched Chak De a bit, and I was like, I want to see, I want some more about hockey. So that's what got me interested in this book, and it is a fun book. It talks about amazing players, and I like that about Amar Chitra Katha, where they talk about all the other famous personalities from India that we don't normally really know very well unless we take our own keen interest. So we get to see more of them from Amar Chitra Katha, which I really like. Moving on to some of the hardbind specials, we have the Divine Beings, which talks about Airavata, the four-tusked elephant that Indra, used as his Vahana. We have Jatayu, the big eagle bird that we see in the story of Ramayana, who dies while trying to rescue Sita from Ravana. We have Nandi, the bull that Shiva rides, and some other mythical and mystical creatures like that. And this is some amazing artwork. These are some of the more recent comics done by Amar Chitra Katha, but very well drawn and very well written. I just love all these stories, and the artwork is so vivid and beautiful. We have Rama's Ring, stories from different versions of the epic. I got this book solely because I fell in love with this cover, man. Just look at this beautiful painting. I mean, Sri Ram looks so beautiful and handsome. So does Sri Krishna. But it's like that one feather makes all the difference between them. But I've bought this book solely because I fell in love with the cover of this book, and the stories are fun as well. And like the cover says, it tells different some stories from the different versions of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, because India is a very vast country. There are so many villages, so many communities that have told their own versions, added in a bit of twist and changes, although the core plot remains the same. So I like to read stories, so I just like to hear every version that there is. Continuing with the hardbind issues, we have Mahadev, stories from the Shiv Puran. So I have read some of the single issues of the same stories that were there before, of Shiva and Sati, Shiva, Parvati, Kartikeya, Ganesha, and but this additionally also has a story of all the 12 Jyotirlings, Shiva the savior, and the end of the Purana. The end of this thing. I just read it as a different title, but yes, there are single issue copies of the main stories here as well. So I have read all these issues, and but I really just love the modern artwork, so I had to get this book as well, and I'm so happy that I have this in my collection. And for those of you who want to travel India and see all the 12 Jyotirlings, this is a very good guide that tells you the story about all the 12 different Jyotirlings all across India. Next, we have Saptarishis, the seven supreme sages. So this is the story about the seven important sages, who are all very learned and have the ultimate knowledge that was passed on from Brahma, the creator of the universe. And so this tells us a story about all of them, how they came to be and how they are so revered here in India. And that's the thing about Amar Chitra Katha. For kids like us, we don't really know all these stories. We may know one or two that is passed on from our parents to us, but the vast majority of these we will not know, because it's just been lost with time, and these are not really told all that much. But Amar Chitra Katha is a great place to read all these stories and get all this knowledge. Next up, we have the Bhagavad, which talks solely about the Krishna avatar. So, the story behind this book is actually that after Vedavyasa, who is the sage who wrote down the Mahabharata and had also witnessed it himself, actually. So, after having written the Mahabharata, he was apparently very sad. He had a very sad vibe for a reason that he could not understand, which is when he was visited by sage Narada, the son of Brahma, and he told him that, see, you have written only about Mahabharata, which has about war, about bloodshed, about the adharma that happened, in which Krishna comes only much later on when he's much older. But you have never told anywhere about Krishna. So write this about the Bhagavatam where you talk about Krishna's life, and that's how the Bhagavatam came to be, because the tales of Krishna is something that I have grown up with. I have another older book that has like some 5 stories from Krishna's life, and that has been the oldest book in my collection, the most favorite book as well, because it's one is nostalgia, but the feats of Krishna is just immense and amazing. And it was also the first story that was published from Amar Chitra Katha at all. So, and we have, kids here in India, we have grown up with Cartoon Network and Pogo, seeing the animated series and so many different versions of Krishna. So these are all very close to heart. And if you ever want to know like a detailed story of his entire life, then this book is your go-to. Just what I was talking about earlier, this is the Pancharatna, the series stories of Krishna. This is like, collecting 5 different stories of Krishna in one volume. And this over here, this was the first story that was ever printed by Amar Chitra Katha. So this deals with the story of from Krishna's birth till he kills Kamsa, his uncle. And it's, you can see it's a bit bad in shape, because I had this like since I was like some 5 or 6. So it's been with me for almost 20 years, and yeah, I've drawn a bit here and there, but all the pages and stories are intact, and I will still read this every now and then, because this art style and the story, these are all just timeless. You can just read them thousands of times and never get bored. So this has the story of Krishna's birth till he kills Kamsa, the story of how Krishna weds Rukmini, the story of Krishna killing Narakasura, and the story of how he kills even Jarasandra, who was like the father-in-law of Kamsa, and also about the jewel gifted by the sun god. Moving on to some other 5-in-1s, you have stories from the Bhagavat over here, which collects the stories of Krishna and the false Vasudeva, a story about Krishna and Sudama, which is another very popular tale that you would have heard about, the friendship between Krishna and Sudama. The story about Aniruddha, who is the grandson of Krishna, the story of Krishna and Shishulpa, and some tales of Balarama, like the single issue that you saw earlier. Then you have some stories from the Sanskrit dramas, like the tale of Shakuntala, a very popular tale here in India that you would have heard from somewhere or have even read in school perhaps. The story of Urvashi, the story of Udayana, the story of Vasantasena, and the story of Ratnavali. Moving into the big leagues, we have Valmiki's Ramayana. So, Amar Chitra Katha has, printed a lot of variations of Ramayana from the different tales, and this one is the Valmiki Ramayana. I have read the Tulsidas Ramayana when I was in school many, many times. But this one was one that was coming out as I was in school, and I was like, I had to get this, so I collected it one by one. This was before they, released all the issues and made, sold it with a case. So as you can see, they have printed all the kandams over here. All the 7 kandams. I mean, 6 kandams, because Uttara Kandam is just written off like an epilogue at the end of Yuddha Kandam, but they've divided the Ayodhya Kandam into 2 parts over here, and therefore you have 7 books. The first one that we have here is Balakandam, which talks about the childhood of Sri Ram. This is a bit of a prologue in this book, where it talks about how Rishi Valmiki came up with the Swara first when he, cursed a hunter, but when he set out that curse, it came in a certain tune. So Sage Narada, who was visiting his ashram at that time, said that now with this discovery, write the story of Sri Ram, who is the best of men to have lived. And with that, he using his divine vision, he sees through the past, the events of every people involved in the story of the Ramayana, and writes it into 7 bhagas or 7 chapters. So the first one being Balakandam. So this deals with a bit of who Sri Ram's ancestors were, like who was King Dasharatha, what was his empire like, what was the yagna he performed to get the children, and it deals with all the small childhood stories of Sri Ram, Bharata, Lakshmana and Shatrughna. Moving on to how Sri Ram and Lakshmana went with sage Vishwamitra, learnt for them, and attended Sita's Swayamvara, and where he broke the bow of Shiva and gained Sita's hand in marriage, and this ends with them coming back to Ayodhya after the marriage. Next is the Ayodhya Kandam, and Amar Chitra Katha has divided it into 2 parts. The first book deals with the departure of Sri Ram with Lakshmana and Sita, And obviously that was a very sad moment for everyone. People mourned having lost a great king, a great prince that everyone loved, like Sri Ram. And even Dasharatha, who could not bear the departure of his son, passes away. And in this, Bharata and Shatrughna, who were not there at Ayodhya at that time, they returned sensing a bad omen, were devastated to find out what happened. They go back trying to bring Sri Ram back to the kingdom, but Sri Ram says that the word given by our parents has to be followed, and that is our dharma. And so Bharata says that fine, I will rule the kingdom, but only in your name, and should you not return after the first day after the tenure of your exile is over, I will consign myself to the flames. Next up is Aranyakandam, and as you can see from the cover here, this is the story in which Sita gets abducted by Ravana. Jatayu tries saving her but is too old and not as strong as Ravana, who had gained a boon from Brahma to not be defeated by anyone in his creation barring human beings, thinking that human beings were weak and not strong enough. And Sri Ram sets out looking for Sita now. Next up is the Kishkinda Kand, where Sri Rama Lakshmana, meet Hanuman, and they then meet Sugriva. And after, helping out Sugriva get back his kingdom, Sugriva sends his armies in all four directions to look for Sita. Next up is the Sundara Kandam, and as the cover depicts here, Hanuman is the one to find Sita captured in Lanka by Ravana, sitting in the Ashoka Vatika, from where he delivers the message. And this scene just reminds me of that song Ramadoot Hanuman Janani mein, from that anime movie Rama and the Legend of Prince Ram. That song is one of my favorites, and I just love that movie. So this book definitely reminds me of that. And after having found Sita, Hanuman returns back and tells Ram that he has found Sita, and then they make way for Lanka. And finally, the last part, the Yuddha Kandam, having reached Lanka, the great war between Ram and Ravan, which is, not just a war of a man who's trying to get back his wife abducted by another person, but this is also to set right all the injustice done by Ravana to the world. And the thing about this is there is beautiful illustrations. I mean, see, the Ramayana is an ancient text. First it was orally passed down generation to generation with lot of depictions and descriptions. Sorry, not depictions, descriptions. So to having, drawn that all here beautifully, having all the narration being done here, it's an amazing work that Amar Chitra Katha has done over here. And as you can see here, this is the epilogue. Like I said, just like a small telling of what happened, the Uttarakandam, about the Agni Pariksha, about how Ram and Sita had to be separated again, and then he finds love and Kush, and then ultimately the end of the Ram avatar and him reuniting with Mahavishnu. Moving on to the second magnum opus, I have the Mahabharata collection here, and this is a bit heavy. I've had this for a much more longer time. It has all the 3 volumes here, and I just love this cover art. The part at Kurukshetra where Sri Krishna tells Arjuna the Bhagavad Gita, trying to address all his problems and tell him the ultimate truth. And as you can see, the 3 volumes are listed here. The first one is about the Kuru princes. You have the Pandavas in exile in the second volume, and the final volume is the battlefield of Kurukshetra. You should be able to find this in a lot of bookstores. These are still printed very frequently, and I would definitely recommend you get this collection and of Valmiki Ramayana. And even if you get Tulsidas Ramayana, that also is a good one. I would definitely suggest you go for these 3 books. Oh, and also the Bhagavatam, of course. Yeah. Taking out the first volume from the hardbind casing, this is the Kuru Princess. I had read this when I was in college numerous times, and I just had to get this book for myself. So this book is very vast, as you know. This is like the most biggest epic that there is in the world. No story is as detailed as this in the whole world, and this captures every event, every story, every character. And I think like that's why even till today it's very difficult to take a movie or a series about this, because it's just too extremely detailed. And it's really well done by Amar Chitra Katha for having drawn it like this, maintaining all the stories. And I like this hardbind casing that's there for the book. Second volume here about the Pandavas in exile, the popular scene from the court of gambling, where they won, the Kauravas won decidefully, taking all of the property that the Pandavas had earned, and outcasting them from their own home, sending them into exile right before the big war. And the final book, Mahabharata Battlefield of Kurukshetra, where it's to think it's just 18 days of war, but actually it's pretty intense how it happens. All the details, all the like they say, the adharm that happened, all the unfair ways in which the war was won, or the fair ways. There was no one side that actually won, because there was so much of losses on either side. And seeing all this war, it just reminds me of that opening scene in Kalki 2898 AD, where Ashwathama just falls down looking at the massacre that is there in the front. And there's a short quiz book here inside that I've not really written anything on. I didn't want to. I just wanted to maintain it because I thought it was good. So this book is heavily detailed, and I'll tell you. And my thinking is, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Bhagavatam are books that you can read numerous times in your life, and you will still find a new, fresh perspective, a fresh idea, and a solution to something at that point in your life. So these three are books that keep on giving. You can just go back to them anytime you want, and you'll always find something new from these books. So that was the video, guys, and as you can see, I've put all my books back in the collection because they're a bit heavy, and they take up a bit of space, and then next to my manga collection over here. But so yeah, that was a video where this is my entire Amar Chitra Katha collection. I have read a lot more books than me personally having them in my collection, but I just love Amar Chitra Katha. They are great, amazing. You've heard me sing their praises a lot throughout this whole video, and I would definitely recommend that you check them out because they reprint these stories a lot, so they are accessible. It's not like you cannot get them at all, and they're quite cheap. And it's really amazing for kids and even for adults as well who want to know these stories. And like I said, it's not just about epics and mythology and Purana stories. It's also about freedom fighters and amazing Indian personalities that have grown from various different sectors all across India, be it about Akbar and Birbal, historical tales. Amar Chitra Katha has got it all. And if you just want some light comedy, you always have Tinkle, which publishes great comical stories. So I hope you like this collection, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this collection, which was your favorite comic, and which is your favorite comic in your collection, and I will catch you guys next time.